That's the age they live in. Information is gathered and disseminated to those who care about it. If everybody tells one person, how long will it be before they're found? Not long at all, he thinks. The tube lights come back on, but Aidan still feels like he is in the darkness. That blackness follows Aidan home, not home, to his flat, the place he is now forced to call home. Bill greets him, but he hardly sees him. He sends the group the latest results from his scraper, all faked. A blonde woman working at a nursery in Fife. The woman doesn't exist, and everyone who works at that nursery has dark hair, so nobody will be harmed. He'll get found out soon, when all of his results are deemed bogus, but all he needs is a bit more time. His iPhone is ringing, and he answers it without looking who it is. It won't be Lauren, and the rest doesn't seem to matter. The envelope has gone. It's Hannah. Aidan sits on the uncomfortable, cheap old sofa. What do you mean? Conrad put the envelope in the recycling. I'm sorry. He's a neat freak. It was on top of the microwave. He thought it was rubbish. Well, get it out then, Aidan says, his palms slick with sweat. More moisture in the wrong places. The phone slides against his hand. They collected it. He always does it dead early. The recycling. Great, Aidan says flatly. Look, it's fine, she says. It'll be in some recycling centre somewhere now. Best place for it. Only what? Well, look, it's probably nothing. Aidan closes his eyes. There is a furnace in his chest, the heat turning up and up and up. This can't be happening. What? Well, it's the sort of thing I'd never have noticed before. Yes. Aidan has to pace. His body is a home for his worries, and he can feel them in every inch of him. He can't raise his voice with her. He can't get cross with her. She is fragile. There was a man, just a man, the other day. I should have said earlier, but I thought it was just nothing. A man. I don't know. Hanging around near my house. Enough for me to remember him, you know? He seemed out of place. In what way? He looked like he didn't want to be seen, Hannah says. Just in the corner, at the end of our terraces, the other evening, I don't know. How was he dressed? Dark clothes, she says, as vaguely as Lauren would. Aidan cannot understand how they are not scanning and memorizing the faces of everybody they meet at the moment. He rises and crosses the room to sit at a makeshift desk, a pine table in front of the window. He picks up a pen and clicks it against his teeth. Is this a risk? A missing envelope. Congratulations, and L written on it. No postmark, and a suspicious man. He clicks the pen once, twice. Hannah isn't speaking. She is waiting, as everybody seems to, for him to make a decision. His hairline has started receding. He puffs air out of his cheeks and decides. Yes, it is a risk. Anything tiny is a risk, or rather, the stakes are too high. They'll know exactly who L is, and if they know Lauren is in touch with Hannah, they will try to get information out of Hannah. And they will assume she is in touch with other people too. Him. And if they monitor him, they will find out that James Thomas is Aidan Madison. He has to tell Lauren. He rings off and runs a bath because he misses the sound of her regular baths. Sometimes quick and functional, sometimes elaborate, but daily, at a minimum. His hands are shaking as he squirts shower gel into the running water. Lauren would balk at that, and gets in. He thinks about all of the text messages, all of the little breaches, texting in public with a second phone, taking her calls, finding out her location, her sending the little parcel to Hannah and the rest. The things he doesn't know about, the firm lead the group has on Zara, he still doesn't know what it is. He'll out himself if he insists they tell him. They've made too many mistakes, and the parcel to Hannah has confirmed that, a warning sign. He calls Lauren and she answers. "A weekly call," she says. "Two things," he says. "Are you in the bathroom?" she asks. "I'm in the bath," he says. "Nice. Look, the envelope you sent to Hannah has gone missing," he says. "I think you should tell the protection service. Hannah saw someone hanging around too, and, well, you can never be too careful with this stuff." "Nothing's going to happen," she says dryly, sounding tired suddenly of his concerns. "It's an envelope, Aidan, not an identity card. It had an L on it. It could have been anyone." Aidan stares at his toes surrounded by a crown of cheap bubbles that are popping quickly. The water is already becoming tepid. "And they only postmark small letters. It was risk-free, which is why I did it," she goes on. "You don't know what they're like," he says quietly. "Neither do you." He thinks about telling her then, but he doesn't. "When I was looking at the Facebook group before it got taken down," he lies, "they said they would watch the people left behind." "For how long?" "Look, just tell the service, will you?" Lauren pauses. "I'm not going to tell them I sent that parcel, Aidan. What's the second thing?" "The phones," he says. "They were for emergencies only, these phones." "No," she says softly, her tone completely different. "You're the only person I know. Please don't. I made these fucking cookies the other week and can't you see?" He tries to be gentle with her. "We're going to end up slipping up. Already we've gone from text to calls to this. I was half cut texting you the other night, in plain sight." "Nobody is looking," she says. "Please don't leave me. Zara she's being a nightmare, and I need you. I love you too much," he says. "Please, we can't, he says. "We can't." "We can. Every call we make, it endangers Zara. You have no idea how badly they want to find her." She pauses. A loaded pause, a pregnant pause. "Aidan, what do you know?" she says. Her tone chills him. He has frightened her. He gazes at his shadowy form in the frosted window. He is changing. He looks menacing, his features drawn. He looks away from himself. He says nothing, hundreds of miles apart, their ears just inches away from each other. "I know things I shouldn't," he says softly. God, what is he doing? He's telling her things. More things he said he wouldn't. Reasonable, logical Aidan. He crumbles around her. "Keep the phone charged, but don't ring me," he says. "We have to obey the system, or we're going to get caught." "But—" "For Zara," he says. Her silence is her agreement. "I'll contact you if there's anything you need to know," he says. When he gets out of the bath, he still has too much energy. He starts doing push-ups, feeling his biceps strain. It's for the best. It's for the best if he gets fitter. It's for the best if he gets bigger, stronger, able to defend himself against anybody. Aidan wakes in the night. Daytime Aidan tells himself that he's ahead of the group, that he's controlling the situation. But right now, as the dawn is just breaking and the rain is falling on the roof of the flat, he can feel it. They're coming for him too. It's all going to fall apart. So he does what most people would do in this situation, living in fear for themselves and for their children. He travels to see his mother. She's sorting a delivery of stock when he gets there at 7:30. He's hardly ever seen his mother sleep. She seems to be on the go for 18 hours a day, always up before him when he was a child. "I knew you'd be here," he says to her as he approaches the shop. The sky has lightened from navy blue to grey beyond the row of shops, a pharmacy, a takeaway, and his mother's shop. She is checking items off a list as a delivery driver waits, his van idling on the leaf-strewn road at the front. She catches his eye. "It's nice to see you," she says in a considered, slow way. She is wondering how he is. And there it is, his safety net. That thought is all it takes. Everything Aidan is trying to keep aloft falls down around him. His jaw shudders and his mouth opens against his will, and he's crying, right out here on the street, in front of the delivery man, in front of his mother, for the first time as an adult. Brenda glances at him, then says quickly to the delivery driver, "Just leave the stuff, just leave it." "Okay," the delivery driver says, having not noticed Aidan. "We do just have to do the check." "Just tick them all off," Brenda says. "I'll just sign it." She holds Aidan's arm and leads him inside, through the shop and into the back room. She silently makes a pot of coffee and gestures for him to sit on one of the delivery pallets. It yields underneath him. "It's just juice," Brenda says. "Burst it if you want to." Aidan gives a wan smile and rubs at his face, then lets the tears keep coming. "God, sorry," he says while Brenda plunges the coffee. "I miss them," he says. "I miss them, and I don't know what to do." He takes a deep breath. The back room is warm and is filled with the nutty smell of the coffee. He feels each muscle relaxing in his back, one by one. The pallet of juice depresses as Brenda sits next to him. It isn't big enough for both of them, but she squeezes on anyway, and suddenly he is young again. Aidan the child, in the safety of his mother's presence. "I know," she says. "You must." "I do too." Aidan nods quickly. Lauren always got on with Brenda. She gets on with everyone, which is actually part of the problem. "You know, after she met you, Lauren only shopped here," she says, gesturing to the shelves around them. "She had a shop right outside her flat and never went there. She was loyal only to here." Aidan stares at his lap, his hands shaking. He had no idea. He had no idea of all the ways his wife had privately loved him. "Wow," he says. "And she bought tons of stuff." "I can imagine," Aidan says wryly. They don't speak for a few minutes. And then Aidan looks sideways at his mother, blinking so the tears clear in his vision. "What do I do?" he asks. "You know," she says, "I used to be a night owl." "Did you?" "Yes. I made sure to be in bed by 2 before work. That was my rule. Before I had the shop," she says. Aidan nods. She worked in a laundrette for years, evening shifts. He remembers her telling him about it when they walked past it one day. "Your father came to wash his sheets, and we got talking," she had said, pointing to a red laundrette in Clapham. She used to come home when he was a child, smelling of detergent, the white powdery kind with the blue flecks in it. "Wow," Aidan says. "And you changed it all." She sips her coffee, and he does the same. It's bitter, tarry, like licorice. Something in the way she dips her head, the bend of her neck, reminds him just of Poppy. He's never seen that before. Families are so funny, the way the genes thread seamlessly through the generations. "I was a bad sleeper," he says. "Not bad, no," Brenda says, her mouth turned down. "You just had a very set body clock. You wanted to be up in your cot, on your own, by 7. Up the next day by 6. I learnt to appreciate the mornings, you know? The fresh breeze, the pretty colours in the sky. You taught me that. And then, when we bought this place," she gestures around them to the canned goods and the newspapers, "we were set. I was used to it. Haven't had a lie-in since, wouldn't want one." Aidan says nothing, enjoying sitting next to his mother and letting his tears fall, his nose running unchecked onto his top lip. He leans back, his shoulders touching the hot radiator. "You never regret what you do for your kids," Brenda says. It's always the right thing to do. Aidan grasps her meaning immediately. You do your best, he says. I'm doing my best. You'd feel a lot worse if you had gone, she says with a small, sad shrug. And it's true. Both options available to him were poor, that's all. It's as simple and as difficult as that. Aidan begins to cry again, in earnest this time, and his mother wraps an arm around him, the way she has done for over 40 years. And he cries against her collarbone. And that's all he needed. His problem hasn't gone away, nothing is solved, but he feels better, because he has seen his mother, and because he knows that he is doing the right thing. He's been dealt a bad hand, and all he can do is make the best of it. It's all anybody would do. It's not his fault that this has happened to him. He looks into his mother's eyes, so like his own, and he feels whole. He takes a deep breath, here in the back room, his own confessional, and tells her what's really going on. I'm trying to get them arrested, he says. The footballers, the group, I've joined it. He expects his mother to be shocked, to advise against it, to be disappointed even, but she doesn't. You always did whatever you wanted to, she says, with a wan kind of smile on her face. Did I? All the time, she says, though she doesn't supply a memory of him, and he wishes she would. It's all a complete mess, he says. And they think I'm someone else. Aidan, she says softly. Please help me, he says in a small, sad voice, even though he, a father himself, knows that parents don't always have the answers. Tell me what to do. What made you do it? She says, finally being drawn now that he has asked explicitly for her advice. He should be more this way with Poppy, less dictatorial. Brenda turns and looks him square in the eye. I wanted to help, he says. She breathes in deeply, then lets it out slowly through her nose, like a smoker. Perhaps she wishes he hadn't told her, as he sometimes does with Poppy. Parenthood for Aidan has been a series of worries, one resolving as another is created, year after year, and he supposes it must be the same for Brenda. I think you should stop it, she says softly. Leave it to the police, the protection people. Sometimes life is about acceptance, not battles, she says. And Aidan knows that they are both thinking of their father, who spent his whole life gripped by hypochondria, and then died anyway. You know? I'm going to end it, he says to her. She nods once, sucks her lips in, and pats his knee. He deliberately lets her misunderstand him. She thinks he is going to stop. He means he is going to end it all. The protection arrangements, the group. He is going to save them. On his way home, he gets a message from Kevin on Telegram. He still hasn't sent the scrapers, has given excuse after excuse. Ordering a few bits and bobs, if you know what I mean. Who needs any? Message me privately. Aidan stares at it for a second. Weapons. It's all he needs. Evidence of intent. He messages Kevin. What sort of bits and bobs? You know. I need a knife, Aidan writes. He holds his breath as he waits for a response. Consider it done. Bingo. When he gets home, he finds a central London warehouse online and books a slot. Then he sends a message to the main group. Things aren't moving fast enough for my liking, he writes. Let's meet. 7 p.m, 20th of December. Find girl A massive. Anyone who's anyone. Strategize. Compile knowledge. Bring everything you know. Defeat. The messages start coming in. "You are on," Kevin writes eventually. And Aidan lets his breath out. 3 weeks from now. That's when it'll end. But he won't tell Lauren. The hope would kill both of them. Later that morning, he tells the police, Lottie. She picks up, listens, and tells him she'll prepare to be there. With a team. Ready to arrest. Chapter 44. Poppy. Battersea, London. 20 days to go. Poppy says goodbye to Emily at her road, Auckland Road. They hug goodbye because it makes them feel like adults. Their fuzzy winter coats catch on each other. They've been learning about Jesus in religious education. Poppy didn't expect to enjoy it, but she did. The tragic figure of the man on the cross who sacrificed himself for the world. She doesn't believe it, but she likes learning about it. She likes thinking that there is something else beyond all this. She looks around her. It's completely dark. She cuts down Cairns Road, a small shortcut. She takes it often, usually when she's cold or rushing. She's less than 5 minutes from home. The cemetery is on her left, houses to the right. She takes her purple gloves off and runs a hand along the black railings. They're cold, wet with raindrops. It's been the coldest November Poppy can remember. The air so fresh and blue and misty as she steps into it each morning, like walking into a huge freezer. Her nails hit each railing and the sound rings out like chiming bells in the evening air. Her phone buzzes in her pocket and Poppy picks up the call. "You on your way home?" her mum says. She doesn't usually ask. "Yes," Poppy says, "less than 5 minutes. It's been a good day today." "I'm glad," Poppy says sincerely. It's the first time she said that in years. She's still on the new drug, and the longer she's on it, the better it seems to be working. Poppy fizzes with joy to think of it. Maybe her mum will become... What could she become? Imagine, hiking in the mountains, working, giving TED Talks on how to get your life back from multiple sclerosis. Poppy went to Emily's house recently when they had a snow day. They got to school and it was closed. Her mother made them chicken soup with actual real noodles swimming in the bottom like eels, and she told Poppy her blusher looked lovely, and it did. Then she started tidying, but not in a harassed way, just in a sort of calm, methodical way, stacking up 2 pots of fair trade coffee and putting them neatly away in the cupboard, leaving the work surface completely free, just being a mum. A little like Lauren. "I'll be home soon, and you can tell me about what you've done," Poppy says. "I will," her mum says, and her voice seems higher and lighter. Poppy hangs up, puts the phone in her pocket, and resumes her trilling of the railings with her nails. She hears an Instagram message tone on her phone, but she doesn't check. Not because she is enjoying being off-grid or anything, but because she enjoys saving up the notifications and feasting on them later, seeing a whole screen of messages queued up. She once told her dad this, and he said, "I know exactly what you mean." It is underway before she realises anything is happening at all. A man, all in black, tall, lanky, like a big spider, eyes just visible. They're dark, with long lashes. He would look great with some mascara on, she finds herself thinking, absolutely, completely nonsensically. He grabs her. And the thing with crises, she learns, while it all unfolds, is that you might worry and worry and worry about them happening, but actually it is so totally different when they do. A basement in her mind opens up, revealing new strengths, new resources. A calmness descends. She is not thinking shit or fuck or call 999 as the man pulls her towards the railings. She is merely thinking, I am not currently dead yet, and that is good. Poppy is zen, there in the small street, being dragged by a man in a balaclava. "You say anything, I hurt you," the man says to her. The railings are digging into her back. The man has one hand across her chest like a seatbelt. "Your sister is Girl A," he says. He has a West Country accent, maybe Bristol. Zara's starling. She's glad she just had a call with her mum. Whoever finds her phone will be able to find her mother fast. And anyway, she's glad they spoke, and that it was nice. If that's the last thing she has done, well, that would be okay. You know where she is, he says. The small opening in the balaclava is parting as he speaks, revealing a pink mouth like a hamster's. Poppy stares at it, trying not to move. She breathes shallowly. No, she says. They disappeared. She hasn't got in touch with you? No. You know where your dad's wife is? No. She's with Girl A. Yes, I guess so. You know who does know where she is, Girl A? No. Your dad. He says it like a punchline, the red line of his mouth curling up slowly as he delivers it. I don't know that, she says. I didn't know that. Well, do you know what? That's your job. He stares at her. They're still joined together like two jigsaw pieces. Poppy struggles against him, but his arm tightens across her. It's effortless, his power over her. Her mum is in touch with your dad. She says nothing to him, just looking. Your job, he says, louder this time, is to find out from your dad where they are. All right? He doesn't know, she says, thinking of him and the weight he's lost from his face already this week, the way his hair has gone white at the temples, how suddenly she can see how he will look as an old man. He fucking does, the man in the balaclava says, spittle collecting on his bottom lip. Poppy stares at him, horrified. What's your job? He shouts. She says nothing. What's your job? To find out where they are. And then what? He's still yelling. Poppy doesn't know the answer. She's trembling. You tell us, or it'll be much worse for you next time, he says. He makes an impatient sort of gesture, beckoning abruptly with his fingers. Poppy looks at him blankly. Phone, he says. She passes it to him wordlessly and thinks about that Instagram message. He throws it to the ground. She sees it crack like a lightning bolt across the screen. The sort of thing that would have devastated her before a man grabbed her in the street. Not your phone, you little fucker, he says. What's your number? Poppy reads it out to him, and he enters it into a cheap old Nokia. So I can keep in touch, he says. He kicks her iPhone a few feet away. When shall I check in with my new pen pal? I don't know. When are you next seeing your dad? I don't know. Weekends sometimes. Monday, then. Who's going to call you? You, Poppy whispers. You tell nobody, he says. 5 o'clock, Monday. Yes, she says again. And then he's gone. The grip across her chest lifted. She breathes slowly in and out. She blinks up at the houses in front of her, the windows that remain blank like heavy-lidded eyes. The people who didn't even look out as a crime was committed. She walks, jelly-legged, across the street and retrieves her iPhone. The unread Instagram message splintered into 2 across the broken screen. She wonders what to do, who to call. They might still be looking at her. She'd be foolish to call 999 now, to call her dad, her mum. She hurries home, little steps becoming bigger strides, becoming a jog and then a run. Poppy hates running, hates getting sweaty, and she's amazed she can even think these thoughts from a past life, but she can, and she is. She reaches the busy road with the church just opposite, and she crosses it. So pleased to see shopkeepers with propped open doors, and kebab houses, and cars, and lights, and people, and noise. She stops running, her breath shallow, and tries to think. Telling will make her mum more ill. That's the truth of it. Poppy is used to thinking, and then thinking again about her mum's illness. But she can tell her dad. Please help me, Poppy says on the phone to her father. He will sort it. That is what Poppy is thinking. He can't help her with everything. He can't help her care for her mother. She is slowly seeing the chinks of bright light in his armour, but she still thinks he can help her now. "What?" Aidan says, his voice immediately alert. "Please come and get me." "Where are you? Are you all right?" "Near Mum's." "OK, I'll come to Mum's. Be half an hour. Traffic." "No, come here. Right where I am now." Poppy says she can't go home. She can't let her mum hear her. She stands outside a phone case shop and next to a shoe repair place, staring up at the church. OK, send me a pin, a location pin thing." "You are OK?" "I'm OK." Her dad arrives after only 20 minutes, which must mean he was speeding. His face, even his too thin face, fills her with a rush of safety as he winds his window down. She gets into the passenger seat. The heat is up, Radio 4 playing soft nighttime murmurs. She unfolds her legs, drops her broken phone into her father's lap, and cries. She so rarely cries on him. She didn't cry on him when her mother was diagnosed, or the first time Poppy needed to wipe her mouth for her, or the time she got an F in maths because her mother kept her up all night before an exam and she couldn't concentrate on the questions. But now she does. And when she's told him, he says nothing for 90 seconds. She counts them. He stares out at the wintry sky, completely black, looking across at the little lake in Wandsworth Common where they've parked up, evidently thinking. "Monday," he says. "Yeah." "You come to me Monday. I'll meet you. I'll take that call. I'll sort it," he says, as though it's simple. "OK," Poppy whispers. And she doesn't ask him what he'll say, and she doesn't ask him if the balaclava man is correct. She doesn't ask him anything. Instead, she thinks again of the Jesus classes, as Emily calls them. She is happy to be handing this over to her dad, her saviour. She is giving him this impossible task, this poisoned chalice, this crown of thorns. Chapter 45. Aidan. The edge of Wandsworth Common, London. 20 days to go. Aidan's heart is 3 times the size it normally is. He's looking out at Wandsworth Common, trying to cry without tears, to release his feelings, somehow, without showing her. He fakes a yawn, and that helps a little bit. He is opening the void, here in South London. His poor baby girl. His poor, innocent baby, so angry already by what life has dealt her, caught up in his shit. Aidan has no idea what he's going to do when this call from the man comes, so instead he watches a group of youths play basketball, envious of their braying masculinity, their games, their child's play. The common is brown, like the world has turned sepia. Dark, spindly trees. He hopes the spring buds are in there somewhere, waiting to come out. On Monday at 5 o'clock, Aidan sits in the car in the underbuilding garage, while Poppy watches TV in the flat upstairs. For an entire minute, Aidan thinks the man isn't going to call. But he does, a few seconds after the display ticks over to 5:01 p.m. "Thought I'd leave you hanging," a voice says. Aidan strains to recognise it. He turns the car's interior light off and leans back in the seat, eyes closed, mentally going through everyone he's seen at the group meet-up. It might be the sinewy man with the brown-grey hair. "I thought I'd deal direct," Aidan says crisply, "rather than involve my daughter." "Wow! Hello there, Mr. Madison. Been having a nice time, liaising with the old ball and chain and protection, have you?" "No," Aidan says. "No?" Aidan stares at the blackness of the car park, the neat demarcations of each bay, the sandblasted side of the building, the security gate accessible only with a fob. "Where is your wife?" "I don't know. I don't know where she is." He tries to play it down. If he didn't know, he doesn't think he would cry or beg. He tries to be his two selves, the Aidan who knows and the Aidan who didn't ever plant that burner phone. You don't ring her? Little marital chats, little missives sent? No. You don't know where she lies awake, missing you? No. I'm giving you one last shot. I don't know, Aidan says tightly. Okay then, the voice says, suddenly jolly, a sort of gung-ho cheerfulness. He rings off before Aidan can say any more. Aidan sits there, under the cover of the garage, watching the cars come and go, watching the moon rise, watching the world from darkness. Anxiety floods his body. What the fuck is he doing? He's dicing with death, endangering his daughter. His mother, the person he trusts most in the world, advised him to stop, and he did the exact opposite. And now he can't even tell her how much worse he's made it all. He's too ashamed. He lies the seat back flat in the car and puts his hands over his face and cries. Later, when Poppy asks him what he said to the man, before she heads home to her mum, he tells her the truth. But when she asks him if he is in touch with Lauren, he lies. Aidan leaves work unusually late for somebody in IT, at almost 7 o'clock. He puts his headphones in and the radio on as he leaves out the back. It helps the loneliness. There's something about the voices directly in his ear that makes him feel as though he's with people. He sleeps with it on too through the night. The shipping forecast, the soft hum of the news. The stars are out already. It's been raining, and the puddles are smeared with the red of traffic lights and the reflections of the London buses passing by. Earlier today, during the work-day, he checked the burner phone. Fuck it, he thought as he did it. He's all in now. This plan has to work. The group have found more photos of Zara. They have 25 images now. They're combing CCTV for her. They are talking to her friends. It's all to the good for Aidan. The more witnesses, the more evidence. He is noting down the names of the people they're in contact with and sending them nightly to Lottie, who always seems to be on her email. Somebody is walking too closely behind him. Aidan turns, hoping to startle them, but they are reaching to clasp his shoulder. It's a colleague, in HR, somebody who believed him when he said his wife had left him. See you in the morning, the man says to Aidan, who lets him pass before saying, Sure. Chin up, okay? The HR man says. Aidan ignores him. He will fall asleep on the tube, he thinks. He gets more sleep on the central line than in his bed. It's the only place he feels safe, half listening to Radio 4's The Pin, the warm air around him, the safety of strangers. He's looking forward to it. Later, as he gets off, something cold presses into his back. He thrashes immediately, turning around. Hands encase his own, drawing them together effortlessly behind his back, like he is under arrest. A voice in his ear. Don't say a word, or Poppy's dead. Aidan's body becomes limp, immediately compliant. He walks where the man leads him, towards an alley between two buildings. You'd never look twice at it. It's grey, dirty, a forgotten, rusted ladder leaning against the wall. He's been foolish, wearing his glasses, his work pass. Hasn't varied his route home. He turns around and sees there are two men, both wearing black balaclavas. Neither from the group. They're hires, Aidan presumes. The group don't want their hands dirty. The realization gives him momentary relief, like somebody who's been given their favourite meal on death row. At least they won't connect him to James Thomas. You say you're not texting Lauren, one says to him, a heavy London accent. They can't be over 20, just kids really. But that's worse. Kids don't think actions through. No, Aidan says. They're leading him further up the alleyway. The buildings are getting closer together, like they're in Alice in Wonderland. Something is still pressing into his back, and he is trying to commit to memory any identifying features of the men who are about to kill him. In there, the first man says to him, pointing to a fire door with the torch of his phone. The light hurts Aidan's eyes and leaves bright zigzags in his vision. He squints at his assailant before they go in. He's mixed race, dark eyes. That's all Aidan can work out. Your phone to us. He holds a palm out with one hand and wrenches hard on the metal door handle to open the door with the other. It's a warehouse, clearly long abandoned. It's tomb-like in its temperature and smell. A layer of plaster dust kicks up a cloud as they walk through it. The first man releases Aidan and throws him to the floor. He scoots back towards the door, but the other man closes it. They're in semi-darkness. The only light coming from their torches, 2 bright beams, 2 suns in the night sky. Phone, the first man says again. Aidan hands it over. There's nothing on it. The burner phone is safe in the lining of his rucksack. The man holds it up. Passcode, he says. It's fingerprint, Aidan says, holding his thumb out. The man unlocks it, then begins scrolling. Your text with Lauren stop, he says. Yes. We know this is bullshit. He throws the phone on the floor, where it lands and skids away from him. The second man grabs Aidan's bag and rifles through it. He throws out a couple of receipts, Aidan's Oyster card. Any minute now, he's going to find the phone. He's going to find it, and they're going to work out that Aidan is James Thomas, and he and his family will be dead. Sweat blooms across Aidan's chest. He tries to keep his face impassive. His hands are wet, skidding through the plaster dust on the floor. The burner phone is light in weight. It's concealed well. He's prepared for this exact eventuality, he tells himself. But this inner monologue is pointless. They're either going to find it or they're not. The second man throws Aidan's wallet onto the floor, then holds the bag up, an efficient hand into each corner of it like a security guard. Aidan stares at it. He hasn't found it. He throws it to the floor in anger. Remember, you tell the police about this, we take Poppy, he says to Aidan. Aidan swallows, then nods. Of course they will. They almost already did. They are setting out to be violent, and so, of course, they will be violent. Where's the second phone? The first man says. Aidan thought the group members would be cold when inflicting violence. But those eyes aren't cold. There's something worse, hyped up, angry. What second phone? Aidan says, trying to buy time. He's thinking about Poppy, Lauren, and Zara. If these men kill him, he needs to make sure they will be safe. Quick. Think. He closes his eyes for just a second. He needs to get the phone and tell them to run, go abroad, do anything to minimize the risk. Your wife sent a little fucking parcel, the first man says. The letter. His mind races ahead. A congratulations message signed by L. They have assumed only one person could have told Lauren Hannah's news. Aidan. Why didn't he tell Hannah to make the Instagram post public, reinstate it, and then the information could have come from Instagram and not Aidan? That would have solved this. Idiot. 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 Or maybe they are going after every single person Lauren left behind. The thought chills him. So we need to find the line of communication, you see, the other says. He's too close to Aidan. He can smell coffee on his breath. So you're going to tell us? The first says. Aidan can't think of a solution. There isn't one. It's impossible. No, he says. No. Okay then. The second man grabs him and holds him down. Aidan braces for impact. The first punch is a sunburst of pain right in his chest. Each time he thinks they've stopped, the kicks to his head, the punches to his gut, they continue. We'll come back for more, soon, every week, until you tell us, one of the men says. Aidan doesn't know which. He can't look up. It's too painful. When they finally leave him, 3 of his teeth are on the warehouse floor, in a deep splash of red. Chapter 46. Zara. Coniston, The Lake District. 5 weeks gone. Some things have changed that Zara didn't even think about. They're studying different novels in English literature. Novels she has had to speed read over the weekends. This school is doing An Inspector Calls and Of Mice and Men. Her mother has read the latter, but told her it's about farm workers, which it doesn't seem to be. Zara finds her jaw is set constantly, clenched into a horrible shape. There's still yet more things to come, more things to steel herself for. She concentrates instead on making friends. She overheard Phoebe talking about another sleepover with a popular girl called Olivia earlier. And now she's going to invite herself, while Olivia is enjoying a lunchtime detention for standing and talking too much in PE. Zara and Phoebe are sitting on a wall that is slightly too high to get up on gracefully. Zara thinks they ought to be reading the scene of An Inspector Calls they have a class on after lunch, but Phoebe doesn't want to. "It'll be fine," she said, with a wave of her hand, and Zara isn't yet in a position to be herself. She can't talk too earnestly about Shakespeare and lettuces. She needs to be liked. "What are you getting for Christmas?" Zara says. "God, look at him," Phoebe says, pointing down to a boy she likes. "Has no idea I exist." Zara's cheeks colour as the shameful feeling of having been ignored descends on her. It happens all the time. If she speaks up in group situations or one-on-one, she is very often ignored. Sometimes she wonders if she is wearing an invisibility cloak, like Harry Potter. But the reality is that she's just irrelevant. Plain, bookish Zara. Not even worth listening to. Last night, Zara walked in on her mother with the television paused on live music. The National. Her mother and Aidan had always joked about how much the lead singer looked like Aidan, and there she was, staring at it on pause, her eyes wet. Zara couldn't help but say something. She told her mother to get her shit together. She can blush with the shame of the memory now. It just came out, this temper, it's come from nowhere. "Do you think he'd meet me if I asked him?" Phoebe says. "Maybe," Zara says. "Maybe next week." This is her moment. She should ask about the sleepover. The words are fully formed in Zara's mouth, but she can't say them. She just can't. Phoebe puts her lunchbox back in her rucksack and jumps down from the wall. "Should make a move," she says. "I need to go and find Olivia before class. I said I'd sit with her." "Right," Zara says. She follows Phoebe, deflated. The moment has been and gone. She's not going to be invited to the sleepover. Instead, she is going to have to make her own evening. A shower, a novel, something to pass the time. Maybe she'll reread The Hate You Give. "What are you doing this weekend?" she says to Phoebe. "Oh, this and that," Phoebe says. Zara's heart hurts. They don't even want her there. Why would she want to invite herself somewhere she isn't even welcome? They walk through a drift of autumn leaves. "I love these crunchy piles," Phoebe says. "Want to do something Friday?" Zara says suddenly. Phoebe hesitates, looking at the school building in front of them. She seems to think for 5 seconds. 10. Zara holds her breath. "Come to mine," Phoebe says eventually. "I'll have a sleepover." Zara closes her eyes in relief, not because of the invite, but because she said, "I'll have," not "I'm having." She was sparing Zara's feelings, like throwing her a bone, a pitying bone. Zara takes it, only because she has nothing else. Chapter 47. Aidan. Central London. 16 days to go. "We've all had months like this, Aidan," Aidan's HR manager is saying to him in the meeting room. Aidan is nodding. "When one thing goes wrong and then another and another." "Yes," Aidan says. He can't tell the truth. What would happen? He would say, "Actually, my wife is in witness protection with my stepdaughter, but please don't tell anyone, and the people looking to hurt them beat me up, but please don't tell the police, or they will harm my daughter. After my divorce, I had all sorts happen. Car got clamped, and then I kicked the clamp and broke my toe." "I'm sorry," Aidan says. "But nevertheless, a few comments have been made recently about your work ethic, and now in the light of this brawl, we're just wondering if you need to take some time off." This is his cover story. Lauren left him. His life has spiraled out of control, and last night he hit somebody in a pub in a moment of frustration, who hit him back even more forcefully. Of course, Aidan wanted to say he was attacked, that he was the victim, but he needs it to be completely believable, a double bluff, and nobody who was lying would say they landed the first punch. So that is what he did. Stalemate. "No," Aidan says, rubbing a hand across his stubble. He couldn't give less of a shit about work. He's got a dentist appointment in the morning. They're going to fit him 3 false teeth for the princely sum of £1,000. "I just need to get the teeth sorted, and then I'll be fine." He lisps on the S. "I'll take tomorrow." "Take as much time as you need. We've all lamped someone once, or wanted to." His manager raises his eyebrows. Aidan drops his head. As much time as he needs. Is that a dismissal or a hint at one? HR never say what they mean, after all, do they? "It'll get better, mate," the man says, a friendly clap on the shoulder, and they leave together. Since the attack, Aidan has a new plan. He has shaved his beard off and replaced his smashed glasses, and now, just for today, he is going to leave out of the front and do his normal commute to Islington. Hannah has collected Bill from the flat this afternoon. Aidan is going to sort it out. As Aidan, not as James. It takes only a day for them to follow him when he leaves the office. They're tracking his movements. He makes it easy for them. Leaving work and going straight to Islington. He even wears a name badge from a work event on his coat. They're the same 2 men. The group must have hired them, just as Aidan suspected. The thought gives him shivers. They have the ability to hire people, to blame those people for a killing and get away with it themselves. There must be conversations in the group that he is not privy to. Maybe the group knows exactly who he is, what his plan is, and are exacting revenge right this second. When he's sure they're watching, at the buy and collect tickets machine next to a flower vendor, he pulls a piece of paper out of his bag. He scrutinises it carefully, then types Truro on the big screen in full view of them. He looks around him surreptitiously. They're watching. Just in case they haven't got it, he flags down a TfL worker and asks loudly if this is the right way to buy a ticket to Truro. He practically shouts it. When he's bought it, he places the ticket in his rucksack. Then he lightly screws up the piece of paper and puts it in an overflowing bin just outside the station. On that piece of paper is an address, 5 School Road. It took him a long time to find the right combination of addresses. He needed something that would throw up multiple results, a common street name within the vicinity of Truro, and he needed, obviously, nobody to live at any of them. It had to be far away, to be credible, and to buy him time. There are 3 streets called School Road near to Truro. It should be enough to keep them busy. 5 School Road, Bodmin. 5 School Road, Truro. 5 School Road, Redruth. None of them is the address of a house. 2 are schools, 1 is an eye hospital. It took Aidan hours. And they will be on their way soon. To the addresses in Cornwall. And then, by the time they arrive back, newly angry, no doubt, he will be ready. For the meeting, and for the police. "You added me ages ago, and just wondering why." That's the message that is displayed on Aidan's phone as he stands on the roof terrace of his flat in Shepherd's Bush. He's smoking roll-ups from the corner shop, cigarette after cigarette after cigarette. Already his fingers smell, his cheeks feel hollowed, his teeth fuzzed. He looks out over London in the darkness. Tiny little model houses beneath him, yellow windows. The clouds above are luminescent, even in the darkness, lit up by all of London. He's almost there. It's almost over. The message is from the second defendant, Mal. He considers it before replying. Aidan finishes his cigarette, breathing the chalky clouds out into the winter air, then types back a reply. I'm trying to find girl A, he writes. Mal reads it, but doesn't reply. So Aidan types, I know about the initiations. A few seconds later, Mal has blocked and deleted Aidan, Mr. A, from Facebook. Chapter 48. Poppy. Shepherd's Bush, London. 14 days to go. Her father has been beaten up. Poppy is sure of it as she watches him move around his flat's tiny kitchen. Bruises, strange teeth, his jawline odd, jutting forward. He told her he walked into a lamppost. Isn't that the oldest story in the book? Like something from a bad play. And so it isn't what her dad pulls out of his rucksack, rips up and puts in the bin that makes Poppy pay attention. It's the bruises. Her father is up to something. Poppy rinses the plates before stacking the dishwasher, as she always does at this time of the evening, whichever house she's in, and waits for him to be elsewhere. As soon as he's in the shower, late, 10ish, he seems to let her stay up these days without any argument, she has her hand inside the kitchen bin. Old tea bags and mouldering vegetables touch her arm, but she digs further anyway. Her merino wool sweater gets wet, but for once she doesn't care. All she can think about is what the balaclava man said about her dad being in touch with Lauren. She knows exactly what she's looking for. That distinctive orange and white stripe of a train ticket. She's sure that's what he ripped up. She finds 5 pieces of 6 and takes them into her bedroom. Before she looks at them, she lights a diptych candle her dad bought her 2 weeks ago. It was £40 and only tiny. She just couldn't resist the smoky fig scent, the weight of the votive in her hand. So far, she has burned 3 millimeters of it. She'll allow herself 1 more millimeter tonight, while it's on the windowsill, a lit-up beacon right in the middle of London. Something to relax her, to steel her nerves as she looks at the ticket. It's easy to piece them together. Straight edges around the outsides, torn edges inwards. It's a return to Truro for Saturday. Poppy sits back on her bed, stunned. They don't know anybody in Truro. Unless they do. Unless her dad has lied to her. Poppy is walking to school with Emily after filling her in on the discovery of the train tickets, when Emily says it. I think we should look at your dad's phone. Poppy isn't surprised by this, only humbled that Emily has taken the time to think it through since she told her about the balaclava man. The sad snake is back in her belly. What if her father has lied to her? He left her and her mother became ill, and now he might have lied to her. She's so mad about it she could kick something. She looks across the street, trying to distract herself, and that's when she spots it. She grabs Emily's arm. A desperate, unconscious sort of grab, the kind people make when they're choking or trying to stop somebody walking into traffic. Emily looks at Poppy, then follows her gaze to the Perspex newspaper stand catching the sunlight on the high street. Truro pensioners threatened at knife point in own home by balaclava youths. What? Emily says. Look, Poppy says. Emily stares at the sign. Truro, in balaclavas, Poppy says. Emily heads decisively towards the newsstand and Poppy follows her. Emily scans the article. Poppy can't look. She's going to be sick. She wipes at her eyes. Tears have come from nowhere, and her fingertips come away chimney black, stained by her supposedly waterproof new mascara. It doesn't say. Emily puts the newspaper back. They don't know who it was. She looks at Poppy. Emily pulls her into the foyer of McDonald's, where they stand amongst the people waiting for sausage and egg McMuffins. They went in, 2 men in balaclavas. They took a knife. When they realised it was 2 pensioners, they left. The people reported it. Emily's bony shoulders that Poppy has long admired rise up and then down again. They didn't steal anything, she says softly. It's them, Em, Poppy says tearfully. Isn't it? Possibly, Emily says quietly. Probably. But look, they got the wrong address. They don't know for sure. Emily picks up a straw and rips the paper casing off it. Poppy watches her. Emily tugs on her arm, and they go and sit in a plastic booth. There's a half-finished cup of coffee on the table, scummy tide marks of cappuccino foam around the rim. Emily puts the paper straw wrapper in it, and it becomes brown and saturated. I need a milkshake, Emily says. Then we can strategize. She cracks a wry smile. You want one? No. Can't stomach it, Poppy says. Okay, Emily says with a patient smile. Her beautiful friend. Poppy shouldn't have led her into this mess. She sits for a few minutes in one of the cream plastic booths. Emily arrives back with her milkshake and sips it. No straw.